Welcome to Always Real Talks Politics 2020. I got in the building A.Scott Bolden, the former chairman of the D.C. Democratic Party, a political analyst with CNN, Fox, MSNBC, Roland Martin Unfiltered. Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything?
No.
Unfiltered, but more importantly, he is the managing partner of one of the most prominent law firms right here in Washington, D.C., and he never is at a loss of words. Hey, Scott, welcome back.
How you doing today?
Man, I'm blessed. You
Good.
woke up.
We
I
are.
woke up. You know, you came upstairs. I came upstairs. Did you get any calls in the middle of the night?
No, I didn't get any calls in the middle of the night.
And
I made it up the stairs.
And you make.
I made it up the stairs. You don't leave that out.
Hey, look, we're here, so
That's
we're blessed.
right.
But let's jump right into it. Look, I've seen you. You've been talking about this. We're down to a two-man race. Some people even say it's not a two-man race. I mean, as you can see, the delegate count in the Democratic Party, 812, 655. Biden is, is Biden, is he done? Is this a done race?
I don't see a path forward for Bernie Sanders. One thing your listening audience and viewing audience has to remember is when Biden wins Michigan or Biden wins South Carolina, if he wins by a wide margin, he gets more delegates.
Right.
The closer the race is, the more delegates that both Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden get. And so the numbers that you've got up there show about a 50 or 60 delegate difference. That's not really a wide margin, if you will. And we've got several other states to come, including Illinois, Florida. I think we've done Texas already. But it's important for Biden to keep the momentum and to keep winning delegates because it's not a winner-take-all in these states. The RNC and the Republican primary, it's a winner-take-all. And so it's going to be a slog, and it's going to still be a fight fest. The problem I have with Bernie staying in the race, if this momentum continues for Joe Biden, it's not much of a race. And he's presumed to going to win the nomination. He's going to get to 1991. If he doesn't, then we'll have the brokered convention. So we got to keep watching it.
Well, definitely, and I think that where we are, it's funny because we started this show, about a year ago, Scott, and I said, has the Democratic Party gone too far left? Have they're falling off the cliff? You remember that conversation?
Yeah.
And everyone told me, no, we got Bernie, we got all these people, and this party needs to change. And where are we today? we're right back where I thought we were going to be or need to be. And that is, and you did too, and it's somewhere in a way that kind of makes sense to win the White House back.
Well, African American voters are socially liberal, but the rest of their life, or other parts of their life, they're quite conservative. That's kind of the dirty little secret of African American life. I mean, they're churchgoers, if you will. They are not risk takers. They like having money in the bank. They want a good government job. These are attributes of a conservative voting population. That's the first thing. So when you talk about Biden and the African American support for Biden, he's a moderate, and most African American voters are moderates. So we learned that from South Carolina and beyond. The other thing that's super important is the media focuses on the progressives in the Democratic Party and the Bernie Sanders, and he certainly has a movement and a following. But we're also finding out, based on these delegate numbers, that Bernie Sanders' movement isn't large enough, and there are not enough progressives in the Democratic Party or independents to really bring him to leadership or bring him to winning the nomination. Him being a self-described democratic socialist is bothersome to a lot of people. One, they don't understand it, and they're not taking the time to read. There's a difference between democratic socialism and communism. But he's got to grow. There's a huge difference. But he's got to grow in order to get the nomination. His political theory and those strategists with him say, I'm the only one that has a movement and can excite the base and have 7, 10, 20,000 people at a rally. But what he hasn't done this year that he did more effectively in 2016 is get those same young people and those same committed supporters for Bernie Sanders to the polls in these states during the primary, to the polls in a dramatic way where he wins the primary and the caucuses in a big way. And then folks like me and you who are moderate Democrats, we throw our hands up and say, okay, we're going to be part of this movement. Joe Biden hadn't done anything but consolidate his moderate and conservative base. And once the other candidates got out and threw their support behind him, life got real good and much better for Biden.
Well, it's a couple of things. We always said, and when Bakari Sellers, he was here, said it too.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton beat Bernie Sanders by 3.7 million votes.
Yeah.
Right? And people, it wasn't close.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And people forget that. So you have all these political analysts, all these shows, and they're saying, Bernie Sanders got all these people at his rally. He had all these people at the rallies last time. He got all these people coming out.
But the difference is he's had 4 years to perfect this movement.
And it hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't.
It feels like it did, but it hadn't translated into votes.
It didn't happen in high Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
right? It didn't happen really in New Hampshire the way the breakdown was.
Right.
It didn't happen in South Carolina. It didn't happen in California. It hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that people have been saying and pumping the Bernie Sanders campaign up about, it just hasn't happened.
Well, the polling supported that pump up, though.
Well,
too.
the polling supported Hillary winning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I don't know. So, the real question is, we should be looking at some of the pollsters out there. I know there's some great people, but they haven't been quite right.
When you see a poll, right, do you think a poll is a predictor of who's going to win a race? Or is it a snapshot in time as to what's on the minds of the voters, and that's what polling reports out?
Well,
It's the latter, not the former.
Well, that is true, but then also polling, as you get into these polling and the data, it's who they called, who they kind of talked to, what their mind frame was at that moment, given what's going on. I'm not saying that polling is wrong.
You can break it down
but
different
polling's
ways.
been, we can't totally allow it.
Mm-hmm.
But back to my real point is that the young people, for example, you mentioned the African-American community. And then I talked to another youngster walking down the street, Scott. I said, so, hey, man, did you make sure you go vote? Did you vote? He said, yeah, I'm for Sanders. I'm for Sanders because, I want health care.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but did you vote? Did you vote? Nah, I ain't get a chance to vote.
Booyah.
Booyah.
That's the difference right there.
Right, but did you go to a rally? Yeah, but I didn't get a chance to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get back to where we are. I think it's Biden and Trump. So I'm done talking about the rest. I think Bernie Sanders ran a good campaign. He's talking a lot of good stuff. A lot of people energized. People want health care. People will figure out how to pay for college. Right, that's a problem. All those things need to be issued. Climate change is a huge issue. But when it comes back to it, it's a Biden-Trump matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And
but do I have to? I can believe in all those issues, and I can believe in Bernie Sanders and his rhetoric on those issues, but that doesn't get me to the poll to vote for him.
Well,
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a couple things. The same reason why, in a general election, we have to be very concerned, because if those same people don't come to the polls, then this is an exercise in futility. Trump is going to win, right? So it's a larger issue. It's just not why didn't they come to the polls for Bernie. The question is, are those same people going to come out to the polls in a general election to support a Biden?
I think something else though too. I think that Bernie Sanders is a movement candidate. Donald Trump was a movement candidate. Shake up the establishment, and we've had 4 years of Republicans shaking up the establishment. And I think the majority of voters, Democrats and independents, and even some moderate Republicans, don't like how this shakeup has looked and felt. And I don't think they have the appetite at their core gut, the appetite for another shakeup that would be democratic. I think what's on the minds of the voters, sure, beating Trump, that's foremost. But I also think that they want some normalcy. They want some calmness. They want some integrity and authenticity in their government. That deep down they want to believe again in their government. They can't believe in this government under Trump, but that Joe Biden represents stability and someone we can believe in and trust, and that the government will get back to some normalcy. He won't attack our intelligence and our diplomatic corps. He will recognize climate change and what the scientists tell us. He will bring us back to normal, and normal was not all that bad, actually. You may not trust normal, but given 4 years of Trump, you want to trust normal again.
So, I love those talking points. It's the former chair of the Democratic Party of D.C. You throw it all out, Listen,
I try to be eloquent, too.
You are. Your eloquent sounds so good. It's like this. I started saying to myself, I said, well, that all sounds good, Scott.
This is what America wants.
But at the end of the day, the question becomes, the question is,
So I like those talking points.
Outside of what's going on, and we'll talk about the corona a little bit, the virus and stuff, about that in the stock market, where it is and why it's taking place. Let's put that to the side for a second. Unemployment is down. The market was doing very well. Certain people feel like they had more money. Clearly, everyone don't feel like they have more money. This is America. I don't know it's going to be ever an opportunity where everyone feels like they're getting ahead, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the way you laid it out is that people are just going to vote for a kinder, better, gentler, sweeter guy.
Well,
that's what you laid it out.
Noise.
I mean, that's what you said, without the political noise. And that's going to be enough to overtake a sitting president that's doing well in a time. So you think people are going to vote for morality?
No, I think they're going to vote for American values, and they miss those American values. It may be some morality there, but Donald Trump and his politics and his rhetoric and his Twitter account make all of us very nervous. If I'm a foreign country, foreign leader, can I rely on this leader, this new leader of the American country? No. The sexism, the racism, the Islamophobia, the homophobia, the religious bigotry, if you will, that makes most Americans uncomfortable. If you interview a Trump supporter, they'll say, I don't support him on his Twitter account. I don't like all the things he says. But then what they say, and these are the evangelicals too, they jump into this political bucket and they rattle off everything that's good about America and the economy. And because he's the president, he is, quote, in their minds, responsible for that. And so racism, sexism, religious bigotry is not as important to them as the, quote, welfare of the country and what they believe he represents. The problem with that analysis is that he inherited a great economy, a booming economy from Barack Obama. Barack Obama turned this economy back around after getting a recession economy from George Bush II. And then the last 4 years of his presidency, you can't forget, the job market, he created 20 million more jobs. 16 million more jobs. He put 20 million on health care. He saved the auto industry. And so his economic record of being like the third best job creating president we've ever had in this country cannot be ignored when you look at what Trump has done. He has nurtured the economic numbers. Sure, employment is down, but we found if you really get behind those numbers, and the economists out here, they will say, yeah, there are more people working, but their wages aren't going up. And these are frontline workers at $8, $12, $20 an hour jobs, as opposed to white-collar jobs or middle-class jobs, jobs that are paying a strong salary, higher wages, and that they're growing, including the green economy that Trump has walked away from. These are important facts. These aren't talking points. These are important facts. So it's a collection that you've got to put in the mix when you evaluate the economy under Donald Trump.
Well, and
now you go.
Now
you go.
It was anytime you have to go back and forth with a managing partner of a law firm who's one of the
litigator, right?
Litigator who's one of the best. I'm just a little old fashioned Kwame, always real talk, keep it simple.
You won citywide a couple times. Don't fool me.
Don't fool the public. Real simple.
You won twice citywide. In the nation's
under
most important city.
Under stress. Never supported by Washington Post or anybody else. But I gotta go there. So when it comes down to it, I understand what Obama did. We all did. But this president been president for 3 years. Economy hasn't gotten worse.
But it's a natural trajectory of a great Obama economy.
Well,
so you got to put it in context.
But he's the president now.
I understand.
When you're the president, you
take credit.
You take credit, right?
And I give that to
So
him.
what you're saying, and I just want to understand this, I mean, you believe that people want just a different type of person, but they want the economy to stay the same.
Sure.
You got policies.
They want human decency. They want a president they can be proud of.
Well, good. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
because you and I were sitting there watching the presidential election in 2016? 16?
Yeah.
And it was none of those characteristics that came across from the current president when he was a candidate. You know it and I know it. It was grabbed or whatever. It was sexist. It was like, it was the birther. It was everything that we already see today. Yeah. Nothing has changed, Scott.
And we told America what a presidency with Donald Trump would be.
Right, but nothing has changed, Scott, and the economy has gotten better. Unemployment has gotten lower. The country feels safe. Like people generally feel.
Oh, I don't feel safe in this country.
Look, we talk to people and we say, hey, what do you think would happen if something was to go down with America? They say, well, we saw Trump when something happened over there overseas. They went and got that guy, so they think he's tough and he's gonna fight for America. Now, whether that's true, whether it's not, the perception is this is a tough guy. He don't take no stuff, right? He says things he shouldn't say. It's wrong.
He was indecisive on Syria. He walked away from Syria and turned it over to Russia. His talks with North Korea have all been fluff. That hasn't moved at all. Sure, he shook his hand. He gave North Korea a huge platform and got nothing out of it.
I just want to know. He's answering to Putin
every day, every month on issues that are, whether it's Crimea or whether it's Syria or whether it's just having a conversation about whether they attacked our elections. He's walked away and said it wasn't Putin because Putin said it wasn't Putin. That's enough to make anybody fearful.
Well, okay,
if you're an American in this country.
Then let's talk about
Have you gotten more conservative since you were an elected official in the district? Because you sound a lot more conservative now.
This is always real talk. I like to keep both sides. You hear? can't be the Scott Bolden just straight Democratic message. I got to keep it always real talk. I got to say this is what people are saying.
You can bring the Democratic message.
People are saying what they're saying. I'm asking you. You're here. You're able to hear. Some people are saying that they don't have a chance to hear the response. Right? They're not watching CNN all the time. They're not watching CNBC. They're working, trying to take care of the family, but they look at Always Real Talk because they get it on their phone.
So you agree with me? You're just raising other points of view. Is that it?
Absolutely.
Oh, terrific. Then.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I was getting lost a little bit in your words.
Well, you got lost last time. You always get lost when you come up here. That's what litigators do when you don't agree with them fully the first time. But let's walk it back and talk about pure numbers.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Now, where are the Democrats going to get their numbers from to actually win this election? How is Biden going to beat Donald Trump? And let's talk about the numbers. Will Biden win 2 to 3% of the white women vote come back to the Democratic Party?
2 to 3% more?
No, come back. So right now it's 53% voted for Bush, right? Mm-hmm. So real question is, and this is where everyone's talking about. They don't really talk about the news too much because they're like, I don't know if we want to go there. I always go there because it's always real talk. White women 53% voted for Donald Trump. If we don't get that number back, then I don't know.
That's not true though.
Okay,
they did vote for him. I agree with you there.
Is that factual? That 53% voted for Donald Trump?
That's true.
Okay,
that's true.
And so if you don't, it's a couple things that happen. You have to get some of those back, right?
That'd be nice, but I wouldn't use the word need.
Well, I'm gonna give me some options.
Okay, here are the options.
I'm gonna give you the options, and you ask me to agree. Mm-hmm. One, you got to either get some of those back. You got to increase. So then you have the Hispanic vote, right? And you had, I believe, 23. I can't remember off the top of my head. % of Hispanic men voted for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And you had a greater percentage vote of women that voted for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And then you had, black women they're not voting for Donald Trump, right? I don't know how many more you can get back. I think they're at 89, 92, 96. I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. Then you had black men. So either a couple things have to happen. Got to get some white women to come back and vote for the Democratic Party. You got to increase the turnout in the minority community and get the spread to make those numbers work. Mm-hmm. Those are the options, Scott.
Yeah. So let's start with a couple reality checks. The white voters have left the Democratic Party and they're not coming back. A Democratic nominee for president has not won the majority of white voters since 1964, especially since Johnson passed the Civil Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act. And they're not coming back. The Democratic presidents since 1964 who have won, Clinton, Barack Obama, and Carter, didn't win with the majority of white voters. They won with increased turnout of voters of color. And so if that's instructive at all, that means we have to have the main option is increasing voter turnout among African Americans and Hispanic Americans. So that's the lead piece. Secondly, if the objective is to beat Donald Trump, then we pull those independents and those moderate Republicans who would come to a Joe Biden, but under no circumstances would vote for Hillary Clinton because of the email, the server scandal. You had the Comey effect in 2016 where he reinvestigated and then pulled back, which I think had a profound impact on independents and moderate Republicans who were thinking about voting for a deeply flawed candidate in Hillary Clinton. Thirdly, Biden has to win, and we think he will win based on the turnout in these primaries, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Had Trump not won those, Hillary Clinton would be the president. And remember, she beat him by 3 million votes. Okay?
Hold on. I hear some sort of prediction from Scott Bolden.
I think if those things happen,
I just want to know.
Trump is not going to win.
I want. This is important. I was going to get there, but you still didn't answer my question about how you're going to.
I just told you. I did. Independents, modern Republicans that are going to vote for Biden, they didn't like Hillary.
I asked you, was we're going to get more white women to come back to the Democratic
Don't
Party.
need them.
Okay.
They're not dispositive of winning.
And that's what you said. That's it. Then are we going to increase the turnout for minorities that will come out and vote?
Yes.
For Biden.
Yes.
And you believe that's the prediction?
Yes.
Then we're going to go back to the states.
By the way, I didn't mean we don't need white women voters.
I know.
I commented that those who wouldn't vote for Hillary are more likely to vote for Biden. So we do need them, but they would be awesome. That would increase the margin of victory.
Okay. So let's go back to Pennsylvania. You believe the Democratic Party is going to win Pennsylvania?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Biden is a son of a neighboring state. He grew up in Pennsylvania, and remember, he's got huge union support. They trust him. Not every union trusted Hillary Clinton, and so you have a far better candidate, despite his gaffes, and he's not a great debater and stuff. People trust him. People trust Biden. He's a steady hand, and he was Barack Obama's right-hand man, and he's living off that and standing on that.
So Pennsylvania, we will say Scott Bolden thinks Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I do.
Scott Bolden thinks Ohio too?
Ohio is so Ohio.
That's a yes or no. Scott, I want a yes or no.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
I like that answer. You don't know.
Because you got a lot of farmers in Ohio who've been hurt by the tariffs.
So let's get to the unknown.
Okay.
We'll say you say Wisconsin because he's actually going to go and campaign there.
Oh, the DNC, right. He's going to campaign a better candidate, and the DNC convention is in Milwaukee.
Okay, so I like that. I'll walk down that path with you. How about Florida, Scott?
I think Florida is going to turn blue. Yes, but see, you can't say yes or no.
It's just a yes or no, Scott.
Okay.
I mean, either we got confidence now or we don't. Right?
But your viewing audience, the listening audience needs to know that the reason I would pick Florida to go blue is because there are over 1 million returning citizens who now have the right to register and to vote. That's a huge amount, and the courts have just said they don't have to pay their fines in order to vote. So now they have an opportunity to vote. You register them and get 50% of them who could never vote before, 50% of them at least, to vote in the Democratic primary or in the general election. Florida's going blue.
Then it's blue. So then let's go back to numbers. We've been around campaigns. You've been around campaigns. We always, everyone always talks about, this is what we need to do. But you got to follow the money, Scott. If the money is not behind it, then it doesn't make any difference. And when you see the amount of money that's been raised in these campaigns, and less than 10% is going to an area that you just mentioned, and I believe that has to be targeted effectively to get people out, how do you do that? If you're only spending less than 10% of your money focused on the target area that you need a 90% outcome, I don't think you get there that way.
Well, it's still early, and you don't get there that way.
So
I think it's still early.
This has historically been that way.
Right.
We've looked at the amount of money that people have spent on the campaign so far, and still less than 10% of this money. And it's probably been, a couple $1 billion that have been spent so far.
Well,
right? So you start to think about less than 10% of that is targeted to an area that's absolutely critical and needed in order to win the White House back.
Well,
is that going to change?
That's got to change. Tom Perez, I hope you're listening, right? Because you're going to have to spend money on black media, black press, black organizers, and black consultants, and put them on the ground in these urban centers and black communities, not only just to register, but to deliver votes to the polls and make sure their vote counts. You can only do that with money. Bloomberg got out of the race. He just invested $2 million in a nonprofit to register African Americans and other people of color to vote in these communities.
Scott, $2 million.
It's a drop in the bucket.
I mean, you spent $500 million.
Let me tell you.
And you say, we're going to spend $2 million and we're going to get these people of color. And people of color are blacks and those are Hispanic. And not to down what Bloomberg is doing, but my point exactly is that, $2 million.
It's early. It's early. You can't judge the first 2 million. I use that as an example, which was not the ceiling. That's the base. That's the floor. But contributions like that, investments like that by our own black billionaires and multimillionaires and athletes and entertainers, because getting people to vote is huge in getting the Republicans in the White House right now out.
Scott, there's 25 states targeted. $2 million.
That's more than well. Are you bragging or complaining? You're gonna reject it because it's not enough?
No, we're going back. No, see what you.
So I take the 2 million and encourage others to give as well.
What you're doing as a litigator is you're being defensive to what I'm saying.
Well, I'm not defensive.
Yes, you are, because you say, what you gonna do? Well, my point is the point I'm making is that if in fact
make your argument, your counter argument cogent, and right now it's not cogent.
No, it is. Grandma understands. What Grandma understands right now is that we need to get people of color to come out and vote. And in order to win the election, that has to happen. Okay. And Grandma understands it's been $3-4 billion spent, and it's been less than $50 million spent on an area that they actually need to get more people out. So this is not a dig. This is about saying the Democratic Party needs to wake up and put the resources and money in the areas that they actually need to win.
I agree.
And if they don't, then we'll be having a conversation about Trump winning. And they say, well, minorities didn't come out and vote like they should. I mean, and people are like, I think people, especially young people, they get tired of hearing about that, right? You got young consultants, you got young political analysts, you got people in the field, people working hard, and they know no money. Now they know, right? They're 30 years old. They know the money's not coming, right? It comes, but don't come to them.
Right.
So the Democratic Party, whether it's Perez or whoever, however long he lasts, they should,
Well, you got to remember, too, Biden, once we get a nominee, all the money that has been spent either by the DNC or the Democratic candidates, you got to remember the first 2 states did not have large African American communities or voters, and you had at least 22 people in the Democratic side running for president. Now we're down to essentially 2 people. There's more money because a lot of investors or a lot of contributors, big contributors, whether it's to a super PAC or otherwise, were holding their money back. Now we're going to go all in on Biden, right? And Biden owes his candidacy, the survival and the success of it, to South Carolina and to Jim Clyburn, right? I often ask the question when I'm doing commentary on other stations, what does Joe Biden owe Black America, and what debt? How do you describe the debt he owes to Black America, and what is Black America going to demand?
Well,
right?
I mean,
one thing we need to demand is investment in our African American communities to get out the vote, deliver those votes, to deliver a win for Biden and the DNC, and to value us, not expect us to vote for you, but to demonstrate value by investing in us, in our Get Out the Vote, in the Black press, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and Ben Chavis, and really demonstrate not only that you appreciate our vote and America's commitment to democratic values, but to ensure your victory. It is in your interest, Democrats and the DNC and Joe Biden, to invest with these consultants and people on the ground, because if you invest, you win. If you don't invest, you may win.
Well, we know history has shown us, and I can go way back in history, right? I had an old man that worked on every presidential campaign.
Exactly.
It was always a fight to get money. Money never was ever there. We always did more with little. We always delivered more than they thought with the little bit that they gave us, and they continued not to give us enough money to really run an effective.
I think that'll change this year.
I think because Clyburn in South Carolina, and because of the men and women that jumped up and really said, "Hold up, we're going to take Biden over the edge." I think Congressman Clyburn is going to be very clear, and I think it's going to be a little different than the past.
I do too.
In the past, what you have, you have a black person. They say, "Oh, you should do this, you should," and they're right, right? But then no one listens. But I think there's no one in the country that can deny the fact that South Carolina and black people have brought Joe Biden to where he is today, right? So the question becomes, when will people have an agenda? And I do believe it needs to be an economic agenda, right? And the economic agenda starts with spending money in the right places in the minority communities to get out the minority vote.
With no question.
And when I say
debate.
And when I say spend the money, see, people say, "We want you to spend money," and I say, "Yeah, we're gonna give you $2 million. Man, y'all go out there and do that." And then there'll be an article in Black Enterprise. We're $2 million to get out the vote. Come on, we all know that's been doing this work. That's
It's a drop in the bucket.
It's a drop in the bucket, right? So when you talk about you're going to spend 30 to 40% money in the black neighborhoods, and that's why shout out to Roland Martin, Roland Martin Unfiltered, because he's been really fighting this thing for a while. I mean, Amy, think about Amy Klobuchar. I mean, she wasn't going to do nothing. I mean, you had people, Scott, 30 days ago, that wouldn't even come on the black press station, wouldn't even be interviewed by the black press. Right? And we sat here and said, you're going to need and they said, you're going to need minority votes to come up. So as we move forward, where do you think Trump's going to lose? You said Pennsylvania. Will Trump win Virginia?
No. I think Northern Virginia.
Northern
Virginia is too blue. And I'll be honest with you, as you go south in that state, I'm no expert on Virginia politics, so forgive me, my friends from Virginia, my political friends from Virginia. But we've got a Democratic House and Senate, State House and Senate, and you've got a Democrat as governor. You're probably going to keep a Democrat as governor. It's only one term. But I think in 2018, where you saw the State House and Senate go Democrat, that's a telltale sign. Those were statewide elections in various districts and stuff. And the drive to get Donald Trump out and the political noise and all the problems that come along with Donald Trump, the good folks of Virginia, the voters, unless you get kind of down into the southern Virginia and maybe far in west, the closer you get to West Virginia, I think they've had enough, and they believe in Biden. They may not believe in Bernie Casey or AOC because that's just too progressive for them. But I think Virginia stays blue. Or goes blue, I guess, because, Clinton won Virginia in 2016.
Absolutely.
Forgive me. I think it stays blue. I think Florida, Texas would be a huge prize, and it's been primed to turn blue the last 4 to 8 years.
You're pushing it.
But it's not there. Yeah, I am.
I thought you was about to tell me that you thought Texas might take.
It's part hope and part looking at the numbers, and probably more hope than anything. But it's got the possibility
in the future.
The other thing is, watch this: the Senate races, the Dems taking back the Senate is as important, if not more, than the presidency. And I got to tell you, if you're really interested in the Senate and what it all means, the Inslee race in the state of Washington,
that's a good one.
The Kentucky race with the Senate majority with Amy McGrath,
Mississippi,
the South Carolina, or is it North Carolina against Graham, the South Carolina with Graham, the African American brother who used to be the state party chair.
South Carolina
guy. What is his name? I'm sorry. I see his face. He's running neck and neck against Graham. These are serious races, and if you're going to invest time, money, and resources, those are the races to take, because I think the Dems need to turn 6 seats while maintaining their own seats on the Senate side. And the worse this economy gets, and I hope it doesn't get worse, but Donald Trump claims credit for this economy, but he's driving the negatives in the economy down because of his rhetoric and because of his disbelief and his lack of intelligence and leadership. You've got to look at the Senate, because it becomes more of a possibility if this corona piece doesn't get fixed right away. We're being told as business leaders that the next 5 to 7 weeks is going to be really tough. We tested per capita, and you know what? We are so far behind. I wish you could too. We are so far behind that potentially, when the virus begins to really spread, or it manifests itself, or becomes symptomatic, that our hotels, whether they can keep up or not, treat and test, or even quarantine. The only way you're going to stop this virus is 2 things. And this is just based on my review and listening to what the scientists have been saying publicly, is to quarantine. Do we have space to quarantine? That's not really clear anywhere in the country. Or 2, testing. Quarantine and testing. That's how you stop it and you get beyond it. So if we don't have the tests, and that you can debate that if you want, but even the leading doctor who testified before the House or the Senate yesterday or a couple of days ago said it's going to get worse before it gets better. That means we're not going to have enough tests or space to quarantine. And we don't have the resources to build a hospital in a week or 2 like China did.
Yeah, but Scott, are you saying that's President Trump's fault that this take place?
Yes, I think he's been in denial. He said this was going to go away in a few days, and it's gotten worse. He said everyone could have a test.
I said, is it his fault? Not
Yes.
not how he feels, how he responds.
No.
We understand how he responds.
But we can only follow his rhetoric.
No, but
and his rhetoric has been completely inconsistent with what his leading scientists and doctors have been telling the public
so it's his
in the
fault that
last
we don't
week
have
or
test
two.
kits?
Is it whose fault?
Is it the president's fault that we don't have test kits available?
Because he has the levers to move this federal government, and he certainly hadn't done that. He hadn't done that, and he's been misleading, trying to calm the markets, because all he cares about is running on the economy and getting reelected.
I mean, but shouldn't the president? I think the president should do both. The president should try to calm the markets. The president should be honest and be honest about where we are.
Just tell the truth.
We need to go.
He's not telling the truth to the American people.
If he had told the truth,
are you forgiving him for that?
No, I'm not.
You sound like you're apologizing for him not telling the truth.
No, I'm just really concerned about the virus. I'm concerned about where we are and real people.
Exactly.
I'm not concerned about the politics.
I'm just messing with you.
So when you get
you
there,
didn't take debate.
No,
you didn't take debate.
No. I mean, because one, this virus is real.
It is real.
And this virus is serious, and it's going to get, we have a public segment coming up, and we're just going to be talking about that. People are talking about, what are you talking about? You going to yoga class. I mean, people are still doing things that, you really need to stop.
And the economy be negatively impacted by the underbelly of what you're not seeing, like the stock market. So, for example, if this thing isn't gone by the summer, you've got conventions that are being canceled.
By the summer,
it's gala season. The gala season right now in D.C. and elsewhere, they're all being canceled, and the hotels, they're locked into these contracts. And now we have a national emergency in D.C. These nonprofits who get maybe 75 to 80% of their income from the gala that they do in the spring
is now there. I used to run a nonprofit.
Exactly.
And that's where you get a lot of your money from.
I got to tell you, I'm general counsel and sit on the board of the Greater Washington Urban League, and our discussions are looking at, on one hand, we're on a national emergency from the mayor. On the other hand, sure, we'd love to postpone it. On the other hand, we need the money.
You can't afford.
How do you lead? How do you lead as a CEO when you got those three buckets facing you? It's tough.
Well, it's a couple things.
And then the layoffs will begin. I'm not talking about Urban League layoffs.
No, I'm
talking about just general. Watch the coronavirus layoffs spread across the business community because of either these cancellations, these postponements, or teleworking or telecommuting and what have you. The ramifications from being behind the eight ball on this virus and not being able to treat it like Singapore did, or even China once they got a hold of it, is going to wreak havoc on the economy. And I think that's going to hurt Trump's reelection campaign as well, because he was in denial for 2 or 3 years.
I knew he was going to bring it back to Trump.
I'm not politicizing the coronavirus. I want it to be. I want to be properly addressing.
I know you do. I know you're sensitive about it.
But,
I know you got family.
But he does.
That you really care.
He politicizes the coronavirus.
Now I tell you what, then, Scott.
What's that?
It'd be interesting. When you come back on the show, let's say, I don't know, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, or whatever. We'll have you on as much as you want.
If Donald Trump gets reelected, it's more about America than him.
No, but watch this. If in fact the coronavirus is tackled and we get through it,
I hope we do
by May. If in fact,
and I'll give Trump credit for that.
If in that the market starts to come back, right?
He takes credit for that.
How does Joe Biden win re-election?
Well, he certainly wins by talking about health care. He wins talking about the economy and the jobs growing even better and the prior work he did with the Barack Obama administration. He talks about climate change, and he talks about human decency and that this is a valued election. Are you going to vote for Trump's values that are not rooted in American tradition and values, or are you going to vote for American values that you and our diversity makes America great again? That's the real Make America Great Again, because Trump's values and his leadership and his dishonesty and his lack of authenticity has hurt America here and abroad. In many respects, it's cost us lives abroad. And then his support or embrace of authoritarian regimes, his lack of wanting to invest in the protection of our elections, his inviting foreign countries into our election system vis-a-vis what he did with Biden and his son. Those aren't American values. Whether you support Trump or not, You know those aren't American values. And after 4 years, I think Americans, independents, Democrats, and some moderate Republicans are exhausted by this. And so to relieve their exhaustion, they're going to vote for Biden. They're going to vote for a value that is rooted in the American democracy. And if they make that decision, I remain confident that we're going to have a new president sworn in January.
Scott Bolden for vice president. Let's get Scott Bolden on that ticket.
That's not an endorsement of Biden. I just think Biden
I'm saying, whoever, you need to talk to Scott Bolden because you're so eloquent. I mean,
it comes from the heart and from what we've been living through the last 3 years.
Because you believe that values are going to supersede everything in the pocketbook. You believe values are going to supersede the pocketbook.
I think the pocketbook will continue. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I think this economy, while it's predicted in some quarters to have its challenges going forward, most people are going to say if we have a recession, if with this growth is limited, then I certainly like a steady hand. I'd like someone that is reasonable and valued, whose values are rooted in truth and authenticity and leadership and a proven record, as opposed to someone who is shaking up the economy and the politics in America and wants to transform America into something that we are totally unfamiliar with.
Well, no,
that's the struggle.
That's part of the story. And then I think there were some that would say, hey, if in fact we're going through a recession, if in fact the financial markets are not recovering, if in fact we need some sort of leadership, then they're going to say, well, how are you going to pay for this health care? How are you going to pay for, this free college tuition? How are you going to pay for all the list of items that the Democrats have lined up? How are they going to fund that and still keep this thing afloat? I mean, some people say that the Senate, and as we go back to the Senate race, you go back to the House race, that those may be more importantly to make sure that we have proper tools in place to curb our spending. Well, and that's what conservatives are saying. Do they have a point?
Well, no, they don't have a point because they they tore a $3 billion hole in the budget deficit, adding to it.
Everyone did, Scott.
Well, Barack Obama, the deficit increased because he had a $900 billion investment package to get the economy going after the GOP president Bush II ran it to the ground. See, there's context to all of this.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're
going to have to reverse those tax cuts.
In order to create it, it's got to come out the House and it's got to come out the Senate. Is that correct?
Say that again?
In order to create this deficit, there's votes in the House and there's votes in the Senate.
Yeah.
All right. Democrats control the House, and the Senate and the Republicans control the Senate.
For now.
So I'm gonna go back to your point. You said this was created.
Well, at the time,
and so I'm saying
the Republicans.
Everyone played a hand in creating this deficit.
The Republican created the hand in this $3 billion add to the deficit.
By themselves?
Yes, because they controlled the House and Senate for 2 years under Trump. Those tax cuts that added $3 billion gap, that reduced taxes for rich people, for the wealthy, as well as the corporation. The Republicans drove that initiative.
So you believe?
And here's another one.
So you believe that if you eliminate those tax incentives and you put those in other areas, that's what America wants, and that's what's going to help Joe Biden win back the White House.
Well, when you put 20 million people...
You'll take money from people that now are benefiting from that.
You're not taking money from people. They're paying less into the budget because these tax cuts, and America can't afford those tax cuts. We can't take care of everyone. Our social programs, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, the Republicans want to gut that to pay for these tax cuts because there's not enough income coming in. It's macroeconomics. I didn't do well in microeconomics, but I know macroeconomics from Morehouse College. And let me tell you something. You're not going to cut those social programs. You can do it if you want to convince white Republicans in southern states that it's okay, but they're the biggest beneficiaries of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security programs. And so it's illogical for the Republicans to try to sell that because you're not convincing the Democrats of that. You're going to have to do something about these tax cuts to generate more tax revenue to pay for that safety net. You can say we're going to invest in the economy and everyone's going to have a job and so forth and so on. But okay, how's that working? Are we better off today than we were before the tax cut? And I got to tell you, corporations and the wealthy Americans certainly are, but working class Americans, middle class Americans certainly don't feel they're doing better. Did they get another $100 or $1,000 in one check? Okay, that was months ago. That was a year ago, right? That's not economic development or empowerment. That's just giving me a little money to make me feel good and to make me feel good about the president who allegedly gave it to me for some period of time. That's not economics.
So, okay.
That's not American values. We have got to do better. And we cannot cut those social programs that benefit so many people of the poor population of the working class.
Well, I'm a true believer in making sure that the low class, the middle class, about middle class and low class, get an opportunity to participate because they're struggling, right? That's what I said. The economy's doing
And
well.
if this economy is so great, how come they're still struggling?
Well, there's a lot of middle class people that are doing better than they were, Scott. There are people that I know say,
how do you measure that?
Well, because
you got a little bit more money in your bank, or you got a job job security.
I talk to them and they say, hey man, I'm doing better, but I want other people to do better too. And right now, other people aren't doing better.
Well, how come immigration's not down? Immigration is up. Now, understanding how racist our policies are, and we got hundreds of thousands of people waiting in camps in Mexico. They're still coming here trying to get jobs, right? And by the way, corporate America is still hiring them. Now, if I'm hiring immigrants, illegal immigrants, including the president, and you got Americans who are struggling to find jobs, good paying jobs, wages aren't going up, tell me what the game plan is as a Republican administration.
Scott, let me just say this. I mean, there are, local...
You agree with those facts, right? Because those are facts.
Yeah, but I agree with the fact. There are also facts that there are people of color in these major cities that are in control, that are not taking advantage and making sure that they are middle class and low income.
That's another show.
So don't
you
get
got
me on that.
Really, that's another show we got to talk about.
I'm always real talk. I'm tired of hearing all these people, say, "Oh, we got to do this."
The brother in Chicago who held up this $700 million development downtown and called out Lori Lightfoot, the new mayor of Chicago, and said, how many people of color or minorities are going to be on this project? And the developer responded, well, we're going to look at payroll and we're going to look at this and use our best efforts.
Well, I mean, look.
As opposed to honoring the requirement under the law.
Well, you have right now in the District of Columbia the hotel deal that's up in Columbia Heights, and they gave them that humongous
closer to home, right?
And then they didn't hit none of those numbers, and now they're saying, hey, we still want the TIF. I'm gonna say, I keep it always real talk. We got too many people of color that are in these positions, and they should be held accountable. Just because you're black don't mean you should get a free ride.
That's right.
And until people of color hold other people that are in positions that are making the decision, then we're gonna have what you have.
Where are the Marion Barrys and the Maynard Jacksons in 2020 in mayoral leadership roles, or leaders of the House or state houses or Senate who will stand up and say, you don't get the TIF, you don't get this tax break until you have some diverse numbers that are going to be making real dollars on this project. This diversity if you have diversity on your team, whatever industry, it is a stronger team. And I'm not talking about diversity of thought. I'm talking about diversity of life experiences of people of color or sexual orientation. And that's got to be the rule. And you've got to be prepared as a business or political leader, whether you're the mayor or the head of the council, to stand on that principle because you passed a law and enforce it in order to develop our communities. It's not blocking development and making our communities better. It's investing in our communities with persons who want to invest, but they have to believe in diversity in order to get the city's help to do that. That should be a fundamental rule.
Absolutely, and at the same time...
And when you were on the council, you were a leading advocate of this and were unafraid to stand up and say, we're not going to do this.
And that's probably why I'm not on the council.
You're too honest.
And I think that's what people say, hey man, that's all what you did. I'm not messing around with that. Exactly. But I mean, at the same time, I think that we as citizens, no matter where you live, need to hold your representatives accountable, no matter who they are. Right? To make sure that there's allocation. We just talked about the campaign, right? All these $1 billion, less than 5-10% going to an area of people that they have to get out to win the election, and it doesn't happen. So, but I want to just end and kind of talk about Cory Booker, and I got to talk about Cory Booker. I got to talk about Cory.
Our good friend Cory Booker.
Cory Booker, I like Cory Booker. I like Cory. I like Senator Booker. I mean, I think he got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, but I like Cory Booker, man. I like supported him, thinking this is a great guy when he was the mayor. And I'm sitting here, Scott, and this guy's going to say that Congressman Clyburn told him that Joe Biden was an honorary black man. And I'm just, I start to step back and I start thinking, my father's birthday was yesterday, and I start reflecting. And if he was here, he would probably say, man, was that boy? He'll say boy, 'cause that's what he's gonna say,
Right,
and not in a bad way. Don't call me, don't email me, don't tweet me. I'm using it in context of what he
If
would
you
say.
knew his daddy, you won't call him.
You won't call me. If you call me, I'm gonna give you my daddy. It's gonna be him responding to it. But he said, "What this boy doing? Talking to the press about a private conversation or a conversation he overheard about Congressman Clyburn." Now, I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot a little bit. I mean, do you think that was a little dig at Congressman Clyburn? Because he didn't have to say that. He didn't even have to mention it. Was that his kind of backslap way of saying something about the Democratic establishment, which he has problems with?
I don't know.
I'm a black man. You a black man. I mean, you an HBCU. I'm an HBCU. Now, I know he ain't go no HBCU, but he's running around talking about how much he love black people. We need to do more for all the poor people, black people, and he says he's black. I wouldn't have done nothing like that without some sort of motive.
Well, it's certainly unnecessary. It could be seen as a dig. I'd like to know the context. First of all, I'm not sure why I'm not sure why he's sharing his private conversations.
That's my point, Scott.
With the number 3 in the
There
house.
goes my Morehouse guy. The first thing the Morehouse guy says, I don't know what he doing sharing a private conversation anyway.
Exactly.
And he said it to the national press.
I got a saying that, when I'm talking to people, whether I represent them or not, whether it's attorney-client privilege or not, I said, listen, whatever we talk about in this office, you ain't gonna run into it on the street. Yeah. You ain't gonna run into it in the hallway. You know what I mean by that.
I will say this, Scott. A.Scott Bolden. I believe a lot of attorneys in town are full of shit. And you talk to them, and the next thing you know, somebody else heard it. That's how it is in this town. So my trust level for attorneys is all-time low. But you, I must say, a man of your word. If you talk to Scott, you're not going to hear about it. Because, there's a lot of bed pillow sleeping, a lot of all that stuff going on in city. City not that small. You find out real quick. Right, people get to drinking, they get to say whatever they get to say. Don't tell nobody. But what I heard, right? And the only way they could have heard it, because it was only a 2-person conversation, is somebody had to say it. So, shout out,
No, I appreciate it.
I can't mention your law firm online, but look this guy, A.Scott Bolden, one of the best litigators, attorneys in the District of Columbia, no matter what situation.
And I've been doing it for 30 years in D.C., and I appreciate your comments. And I've represented lots of different politicians, elected officials, business leaders, and others. And I remember when I first met my wife, Erica, about 10 years ago, we were talking, and she said, you should have represented a lot of people in the district and around the country. I said, yeah. She said, aren't you worried about having all those secrets and keeping all those secrets? And I remember telling her, no, don't worry about it, because as long as you don't hear about those secrets, I'm in good stead. The first time about the third party starts hearing about those secrets.
And it happened.
I'm going to be on the run.
And it be happening when you don't even know it. You be like, you don't even tell a person you heard it.
But you're going to be on your own if you start talking. I've kept stuff for 30 years. I'm a second-generation lawyer.
Absolutely.
And
Pops was
the old man,
very
obviously,
prominent attorney.
exactly, in the state of Illinois. He's 86 now and still sharp as ever. Not getting around as like he used to, but I got to tell you, I've been around the law for 57 years. And I grew up watching him try cases, and he's one of the most honorable and brightest men I know, other than your daddy, of course, but your dad wasn't a lawyer. But I've learned about justice and authenticity and integrity and this what do you call it, attorney-client privilege. And I respect it. I respect the profession. And it's just not something I do, and nor should any other attorney do. Even if you're feeling good about yourself and your practice, and you're representing an Albert Hainsworth, or you're representing a Marion Barry, or you're representing other politicians from around the country, it just shouldn't be on the table. You don't have to worry about telling on your clients or sharing secrets if it's not on the table.
If it's not on the table.
If it ain't on the table.
If it ain't on the table, that's
you got to do it.
That's the most thing. So look, back to this Cory Booker. I mean, do you think he was trying to underhandedly?
I don't know. I know maybe. I don't understand the purpose on saying that. And the idea of Biden being an honorary black man, my gut is I would hope that the two of them, which makes it kind of worse, that they were talking one-on-one, jokingly, if you will, offline. And if he shared that or shared that he got that from Clyburn, I don't think Clyburn in a formal setting would ever say that, and I don't think Clyburn would ever say that unless he felt he was in a trusted conversation. And so if Booker disclosed that, whether he meant to or not, or whether he had some purpose or intent, I don't think it was appropriate. And it's all up to Jim Clyburn whether he cares or not.
Let me tell you, and he might not care, but I care, and I think it was
Mm-hmm.
totally disrespectful. You know, and this is what we have, and sometimes
Maybe.
in our community, it's totally disrespectful to try to put Congressman Clyburn in this pickle. After he, you know, here is Congressman Clyburn being credited for single-handedly, you know, galvanizing and getting South Carolinas to get behind Joe Biden at a time when people were running from Joe. You know, as Chuck Brown say, "Run Joe, run Joe." People were running, right? And he
Run as fast as you
run
can.
as fast as you can, and he took time to do that. And then here he is on a high, and then here come another brother. You know, sitting there, you know, he said he's an honorary black man after Cory Booker just talked about Joe Biden in the debates about about the crime bill, right? So all this stuff just is a little funny.
Yeah, it
to
doesn't
me.
make a lot of
So,
sense.
you know, Cory Booker gets the always real talk donut head of the day. He gets it. Yeah, he gets it.
He's a good guy. Maybe he made a mistake, but overall, his voting record and his leadership in as a senator and also in the state of New Jersey, he's got a strong record to run on. Let's not forget that. I think he gets the donut head, though. He does, but he can redeem himself.
But, you know, it's interesting because when you reach out to him and try to get him to come on the show, they're like, "Oh, well, you know, I got some trouble. I want to stay away from it." But here he is, the donut man, you know, doing the donut move.
Maybe he'll come on now.
And,
Maybe he'll come
I was
on.
like, goodness great, and I like the guy.
Right.
And I know he made a mistake.
No. I've raised money for him. And,
right. And what I'm saying is that
I love his story.
It could have been a mistake. I love his story, but I want people at home, especially young people, don't go do nothing. That's stupid. Because that's stupid. That's not what you do. Right? All right, look. It's A.Scott Bolden. A.Scott Bolden and Always Real Talk. It's Politics 2020. But more importantly, you know, it's always good to hear your perspective, what you got to say, my brother.
Good being with you, too.
You know, as we move forward, you know, it's okay for you to ask me questions, too, now.
I asked you a few.
You did. You did.
We ought to do a show where you and I do a Q&A of each other and without preparation for any topic. In the politics and economic, at the intersection of politics, business, and race, right?
Okay.
And it'd be a Q&A back and forth. I don't know how much time you would have to do a show like that. And we have to answer, and we can only have answers in 30 to 1 minute increments because both you and I can talk forever.
Well, you know,
that'd be fun.
Well, the good thing about it, you know, I think I might let A.Scott Bolden do the interview, the Kwame Brown interview.
I'd love to do it.
All, you know, no pre-questions.
No hose bar.
Those hose bar. That's what we're going to do. We're going to, but now, you know, we can make that decision. We're going to do it. And A.Scott Bolden is going to be the one to do it.
Love to come
and
back.
You know I'm going to keep it real.
Of course.
And I know you, but I know what you going to keep it real too. So it's going to be lively.
You call some of my answers today talking points, but you know, they can be real talking points. They can be real talk and talking points. You know, I can't help it if they're both.
Maybe they just sound so smooth. That's what. Maybe they were just so smooth. They was like programmed. Like, you know, I put my shirt on, then I put my tie on, then I put my shoes on, and I walked out the door.
I took a bath first.
I
took a shower
I
first.
wash my hands for 20 seconds. Wash your hands for 20. Look, if you're listening to us, wash your hands for 20 seconds. I don't know why these people just decided. People just act like they just discovered soap. I'm getting soap. Now all the soap is gone in the store. I'm like, what were people doing?
My wife Erica and Cole, my bonus son, they are germaphobes and they think I am just a heathen half the time. But they did turn me on to one thing. This is real quick. And that when they wash their hands in a public bathroom, right? That you're not supposed to wash your hands, dry them off, and then touch the door and go out.
Oh,
right?
I know. Yeah, I know.
You're supposed to hold or get another paper towel
and open
the door, right? And then toss it. And whenever I've done that, there's no way to toss that paper towel.
You bring it out.
And I wind up bringing it back and throwing it away somewhere or having the waiter take it. But they've turned me on to that, and I'm trying to do better.
All right. Hey, look. A.Scott Bolden in the house. Great having you back.
Great talking to you.
Look, we did fist bump.
That's right.
We did fist bump. But you know, it's good having you back on the show. You was one of the first that was here. Glad to have you back. It's good
to be back.
What matters? What's your slogan?
What matters most?
There you go.
Talking about what matters most.
Right. Hey, it's always real talk, so you know it's gonna be real. Cool. We good.